2021 at 5 p.m. This meeting is held live on Facebook through Zoom. If you all will please rise for our invocation and remain standing for our pledge. Ashley?
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for bringing us together to do the business of the city of Ratcliffe. Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you give us each day, and we ask that you continue to bless us during this time. Father, bless each of these council members and the mayor as they make the best decisions that they know how for our city. Bless those that are currently fighting the virus, and bless those that are serving our nation both here and abroad. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this time, can we have roll call, please?
DeRoche?
Here. Sorry.
That's okay. Jackson?
Here.
Merle?
Here.
Owens?
Present.
Thompson?
Here.
Yates?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Well, welcome everyone to our first work session of the new year. We'd like to start off by welcoming a new face who was just recently approved and sworn in this morning. Councilwoman Jackson, welcome to your first official meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, well, today, and I think Councilman Yates, you have someone I think sitting there with you. You probably want to introduce real quick.
This is my great niece, Macy.
Well, hello. How are you?
Say hello.
Hi. All right. Well, we're going to get started here. Of course, in the work session, we don't have any public comments, and so we'll reserve those for next week. And of course, if anybody wants to give us a public comment, I'm hoping that next week will maybe or possibly be our last Zoom meeting. The next ones we'll try to start doing in person. But with that, we don't have any public comments that are during the work session. So if you want to submit those comments, you can reach out to mayor@ratcliffe.org, or if you want to reach out to any of the council members to pass those on to us, that would be fine as well. And we will read those at the next scheduled council meeting. With that, on our work session discussion items today, I wanted to, with a couple new council members, as well as refreshing some of the existing members that were here last year, we wanted to just go over a couple small updates. Usually these take a little bit of time, but by the time question and answers happen. I've asked two things tonight with a financial update. Is from our Chance Fox. He's our CFO here at the city. And Chance, I'm going to turn it over to you to give an update of kind of the financial states from the last 6 months of the budget.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I know we have some new council members that were not here July the 1st when we passed this budget. So as the mayor said, this is kind of treated as kind of a mid-year review summary on the revenues and some of the departmental expenses through the first 6 months. The details of the budget for those new members, we normally do at May and June of each year when we have detailed discussion at council work sessions. At budget time, we talk in detail with department heads about their needs for the upcoming fiscal year. And then we discuss and look at our revenue projections for the year and kind of have a working budget. And there's usually some give and take. And then usually sometime in the middle of June, we have a budget that's put together and an ordinance that's adopted. So the more detailed discussions that we would normally have would be reserved for May and June. So this is just kind of a brief overview after the first 6 months of the budget. Looking at the budget itself on a revenue side, our budget is about, it's $12,536,200. That is our general fund budget. And of course, that budget is going to govern your departments for police, fire, administration, planning and zoning, public works, and economic development. And then we also have a separate budget for our stormwater utility fund. that is totally separate from the general fund. It has its own dedicated revenue source through stormwater fees that make up and build that budget, which again is not tied in any way to the general fund, which is funded by taxes, occupational fees, insurance fees, and general governmental grants we get from the state. So two totally separate entities. The stormwater budget, we start off this year as 1.5, little over 1.5 million. That budget normally is around $1 million. It's a little higher this year in part because there is a tunnel grant that was about $502,000 that was set aside in the stormwater budget. And that, you know, like a lot of grants, they kind of come and go. So they may overstate your budget for that year or 2 years that they're in there. And then you'll go back to a normal reoccurring budget. So I'll just start off on the general fund and again, everything here is based as of December 31st. So 6 months of activity. We're at 67% right now of anticipated revenues received, which is a really good figure. Obviously, we would be at 50% even through December 31st. Now that is it's a little skewed only because we've received about 95% of our property tax revenue for the year. And as you all probably know, those taxes typically come due in around early November with a discount, and then they're typically paid without before penalty by December 31st. So most of our property tax money has come in, and that's one reason why we're at 67%. But still, even considering that, we're right on track to where we need to be. Our other two major revenue sources that make up the general fund, which is your payroll taxes, which is your employee withholdings, and also insurance premium taxes, those are coming in at 52%. So again, those are all good signs that we're right on track to where we need to be for the first 6 months of the budget. Also wanted to mention just on a revenue side about cash reserves. Obviously, some of the existing council may kind of know where we have been operating in the past, but also wanted to share that, you know, with the new council. When we started the budget July the 1st, we had approximately $4.29 million in reserves. Those reserve funds, for lack of a better term, is kind of your city savings fund. Those are funds that are built up over time to protect the city for contingencies, emergencies. It also has an effect on protecting when the city goes out and has to borrow funds for projects, for long-term projects and needs. You need to be able to show, you know, that you've got a reserve fund. So that figure again was 4.2 million in July. Since then, there have been some additions to that reserve fund, and that is solely based on the fact that the city received COVID relief funds as a result of the CARES Act. Those funds were basically sent to almost all Kentucky cities. They had a formula on how cities would receive allocation of those funds. And the city of Ratcliffe had its allocation as well. The amount that Ratcliffe received was $1.65 million. We got those back in September. We actually started the process a few months prior to that, as some of the existing council may already know. There's documentation that we had to submit to support the receipt of those COVID relief funds. Those funds have been currently placed into our reserve fund. Obviously, they have not been spent. There will probably be some discussion later. Obviously, that'll be you know, for the mayor to determine. And my guess is there'll be discussion in the spring as it relates to the 21-22 budget on how the city may want to utilize some of those funds, because there have been some long-term projects that may need to, that the mayor would like to talk about probably. In addition to that, COVID relief fund allocation. We then received notification from the state about a month and a half ago that there would be a second distribution. And the city again has applied for that second allocation as well. And that allocation is going to be $516,000. And we've already turned in our documentation for that. I believe the mayor's office has signed most of the documentation. So we would expect receipt of those funds in late January, maybe early February. So, between those two allocations, you're looking at about, a little over $2.15 million that will be available for us to discuss. So the main thing was that you all would be aware of that and that those funds are secured. Nothing's happened to them. We've just placed those in our reserve fund kind of as a temporary holding place. Talk a little bit about some of the departments, and again, not going really over operational issues, but just as it relates more to the budget. Yes, sir.
Before you go in, is there any questions? Can everybody mute their mics real quick? I'm getting a little back feed, sorry. All right, is there any questions anyone has for Mr. Fox before we move into the departments regarding the overall summary?
Yeah, what was with the Colvin fund and stuff? What's the total for the reserve fund?
We had well, if you add the 4.29 that we started with, along with the COVID relief funds, I believe that takes it to $6,459,000.
Yeah, and so keeping in mind, Councilman Thompson, initially back in 19 when we started, I think we were at 3.8-ish. And if you remember, I see Chris, if you remember when we did this, that we had quite a bit of money left over in surplus because we didn't spend all the budget money because we were concerned at the time. We had some rollover money. And then this budget cycle we currently in, we had what we called the parking lot fund for some of those projects we needed to make up, whether it was some roofing work, the park and Rex work. So a lot of that money we still have set aside that we haven't even dipped into yet in the reserve. So we have been able to meet our obligations through this budget cycle, last budget cycle. And then as Chance and I talked about, really coming to you guys as we work towards the new budget, we'll look at where we can, through software costs, other things that we have, departmental issues, I think we'll be able to see what we can safely spend that money on and do it, utilizing it the best way for the taxpayer.
Got it.
I do have a question. I may maybe some more clarification for understanding. So, and what you just said, Mayor, is, and what Chance said is May and June timeframe is when you, I'm assuming, or maybe the spring, you start looking into these projects or ways that you're going to propose this be added to the next budget. So really until then, nothing changes, or nothing changes with the budget. Nothing is going to go forward until July 1st with anything new, but we don't start discussing that until spring.
We have so the budget cycle we run from, and I know you probably know, I'll just reiterate for those watching, we go from July 1st to June 30th. So we currently are already sitting in the budget cycle that that the previous council, so 6 months of this budget will be previous approved budget prior to the new council. So the council at any time, we can say there's a software need that may come up. There may be, we start planning. Now, keeping in mind, the budget that's approved is the mayor's budget and the department's budget that I present to the city council. The city council then can in turn have discussion, meet with departments. They actually meet with us during a budget meeting. And then we determine whether or not the budget I presented to you all is one that you all are okay with and approve. You all as a majority then can choose to make changes in that budget. And then, we have discussion, we work through it. And then if we decide that there's changes are made, which over the past, we've all came together pretty well. And that's the budget then we proceed forward with. But the budget that's presented to you all is the mayor's budget that you all vote on and approve or disapprove or make changes to. We typically start that process, usually March, April, May. We have a budget meeting, and then in June, you all would move forward with, what approval comes up.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, if there's no other questions, we can move
Okay,
on. I'll let you start on the I just wanted to make sure we got that out before we all forgot what we were gonna ask.
Okay, on the departments, and again, these are just kind of, some of these are gonna be just brief because, again, we're not discussing operational issues and things like that. It's just a summary, so you all have a feel of how departments are spending dollar-wise, the allocation that they were given by the council in July. Police department, they're operating at 44.5% of budget. And again, 50% being the benchmark. So they're, 5.5% under budget. And police department is the largest budget by dollars. So obviously, when any department is under, it's obviously a good thing, but just from a pure dollar standpoint, they are under budget. They have a $4.68 million budget. That was the allocation that was given to them for this year. There are, and I know Chief Cross is going to be following me, I think, on today's agenda. You all may have questions for him on some things, but just as it relates to some of the dollars, there were 5 total vehicles that were approved in the budget, 2 Tahoes and then 3 Chargers. The 2 Tahoes have already been purchased and are here and probably in operation. The 3 Chargers, I think, have been ordered, and they just haven't been received or paid for yet. Those tend to be more of the more high dollar purchase items in the department that are not a reoccurring expense. Those typically, there's usually a lot of discussion as the council, as some of the council members know at budget time, between vehicles, how many vehicles need to be replaced in relation to current inventory based on their mileage and other factors. So 5 were approved, 2 have been paid for, and we're waiting for the other 3. There was also funds set aside to do a major overhaul of body cameras and tasers. There was a lot of discussion at the beginning of the budget on how to pay for that. We decided to do some short-term financing of those because of the associated cost. We did purchase 40 body cameras, and it may be give or take 1 or 2. I'll leave that to Chief Cross, but 40 body cameras and 40 tasers. And again, those in the past have been, we've only been able to purchase a few here or there because of the associated cost. But the decision was made to basically replace the current inventory, and there were reasons why that inventory was replaced. Again, that would be a question for maybe for the chief if you have questions, but we did replace those, and they are, both of those are 5-year payment plans. Makes the annual cost very manageable for the city. The interest rates are extremely low on those. Those are just, those were the other 2 major items. I will say that when I talked earlier about the department being a few percentage points under budget, part of that sometimes also deals with personnel, whether there's vacant positions or not. And in the police department, typically there are some vacant positions. And what I'm showing currently is there is about 7 vacant positions in the department. 6 police officers, and some of those do transition to the detective section, as the strength of the force gets up, and then 1 dispatcher. So 7 vacancies in the department. Administration, the admin budget was $1.57 million for the current year. And I'm just going to give some of these figures because I know some of the new council members, don't have those figures. And I can get you copies of a budget report, as we transition. So you have a copy of the operating budget for each department. So 1.57 million, which is 34.5% as of December 31st. So it is under budget quite a bit. Now, part of that is because, as the mayor mentioned earlier, there were some, as he referred to it as parking lot money. There was about $178,000 of funds when we did the budget for 2021. There was about $178,000 of funds that we basically put in a contingency fund, parking lot fund, so that as things come up throughout the budget, we would have those funds already in the budget. It's just a matter of what would be the needs as they arise. So as a result of being at 34%, obviously we haven't spent any of those funds. So it does kind of make that number look a little better than it is, but nonetheless, it's still well under 50%.
Hey, Chance, let me jump in real quick and kind of what Chance is talking about. Some of what we've done by setting that money aside is just making sure we're still in this state of emergency in reference to COVID, small businesses shutting down here. We didn't want to spend the money and then later on have to come back. Now, I know that seems a little bit with the money we have in reserve and stuff, but I'm being very cautious in our overall budget scheme to make sure that come spring, we're going to have the money necessary to continue functioning and operating without having to make necessary cuts or changes. And so I think as we progress into the end of February, 1st of March, and we see where we're at and how the next quarter of our budget looks and what that revenue source looks like, we'll have a little bit better understanding on moving forward with some of those expenditures, which when I meet with you three council members, I'll be able to kind of go over some of those more in detail. All right, Chance, sorry, go ahead.
The other item that is in the admin budget that we have not done anything with yet is what we refer to as an occupational tax reserve fund. Basically there's $400,000 that is part of the budget as an expense that we have not done anything with yet, because those are funds that typically by year end, sometime in June, there'll be a transfer of funds to from funds that we receive throughout the year that'll go to a dedicated occupational tax reserve fund, because without getting too detailed, that was set aside for the last two budgets by the council because of the rise in pension costs that are being mandated onto all Kentucky cities and counties by the state. There was significant increases 2 years ago that's resulting in basically a 12.5% increase annually for 10 years on cities and counties on the employer contribution rates that's associated with your payroll. And those dollars are significant to the city, and they're significant to any city. So, so those funds were approved, and I would expect that I typically don't do it until June. We kind of see how the year plays out and how our actual occupational tax receipts come in. But those receipts, there'll be a $400,000 transfer out of the admin budget to increase a dedicated account that we have set aside that we refer to as our occupational tax fund. Transition to fire department. Not a whole lot to say there with the fire department. They had quite a bit of capital items that was approved in the previous budget, 1920. So for the current budget, they're operating at 50.2%. So pretty much right where they need to be. And their budget was $2.892 million. Again, just as a point of reference for you all. Parks and Recreation, they have a budget of $695,000. And they are operating at 38.1%. And of course, there was no pool operation, as you all know, in the fall. So some of, I guess the earliest that it could be would be the spring of 2021. And of course, I don't know if any of us know whether that's even going to happen yet, but typically that budget is a little higher because of the operation of the pool and because of staffing and things like that, but that was not in the current budget. Public Works Department, they have a budget of $1.55 million. They are operating at 45% as of December 31st. So again, all these figures are very favorable at this point. And the one thing of note in that department, Public Works is where your city street resurfacing gets allocated, those funds. So the city receives municipal aid road tax money from the state. each city and county government receives those funds. And our share is typically for this year was going to be approximately $440,000 in municipal aid funds. And we then allocate those funds in kind of three pots of money. Part of that goes to resurfacing of city streets, which we budgeted $402,000 for this current budget. And we have actually spent all of those funds already. I mean, those sometimes we'll do a fall resurfacing and then a spring resurfacing. But I guess because our contractor had the availability, the mayor's office, identified the streets that, off of a schedule, what needs to be done. So those funds have been fully spent at this time. Some of those other funds that we receive from municipal aid also go to our sidewalks. And that typically is around $25,000, where we maintain our existing sidewalk infrastructure. Some of those are simply repairing existing sidewalks, and some of those monies go to connecting sidewalks from point A to point B. So you kind of have a contiguous section of sidewalks in areas. And then there's a small part of that money that reimburses the city for actual other costs that we incur. For example, where we maintain the easements on the sides of the streets, where we purchase salt for the streets at wintertime. So a small portion of that money goes to that as well. But the biggest part is the street resurfacing, which, like I said, has already been done for this year. Planning and Zoning Department, they have a budget of $413,000, and they are currently at about 57% of budget. There's usually not a whole lot in the planning department as far as needs. It's mainly staff on their side, and then we are doing some things, as the existing council knows, with some economic development things. So typically any economic development related expense kind of flows through that department as well. Stormwater Utility Fund, as I mentioned earlier, they have a $1.5 million budget, and they are currently only operating at about 24.2%. So just to caution that, it does seem, obviously that's a low figure, but that doesn't mean things aren't happening. What you've got that tunnel grant that's in there, and that's about $510,000, and no money in a sense has been spent on that. And I'll let the mayor touch on that, and why that is at this point. I know he's going to have a comment about that, but when you back that out of their budget, it will make that 24% obviously a lot higher, but they're still well under where they need to be at 50%.
Yeah, Chance, now on that includes also the former engineer's salary. That's also being saved in that as well. So if you all, of course, I know we had Toby Spalding was our engineer. He left. And so since then, we've actually been contracting with a company, QK4. They have an office here in Ratcliffe. And then they also have been responsible for doing most of the work on the South End basins. And they're also the contractor that was contracted out to do the North Loxton project as well as the tunnel project. So they're very familiar with the projects we had. That's why we were comfortable in getting on a schedule with them for engineering. I haven't moved forward with hiring that engineer. As we moved into winter, it starts slowing down a little bit on the stormwater side. They start doing a little bit more of the smaller projects and the catching up. And so some of that reflection in that number, of course, is the engineer's salary. So far, things have been working pretty well. I have a regular a call with QK4 to update on projects. They've been out, they get a list, they go out, they give us their recommendations. We have a very capable stormwater crew that goes out and does the work. I've utilized our GIS, and basically he was the administrative assistant for stormwater to kind of help with the office side. And so it's saving us money. And I think it's reflected in that number that you're seeing that Chance is spoke about. The other thing, when he talks about the tunnel grant, I know the other council members remember at the very beginning, I'm talking to you all in general, but I'm just saying, and when I refer to the other council members, they were there during this process. We were told at the very beginning, hey, we got to hurry up, get this tunnel project done. We got to move forward, got to have these numbers, we got to do it. Well, I think the city participated on our end, what we were required to do, got the information required of us, submitted it, and then we waited. We waited and we waited. and through our contractor, QK4, they worked alongside with the state. We got to a point back in September, if you'll remember, when we did the crossover at Centennial and 31W there from between Wilson and 31W on Centennial. That was all hopefully going to happen all at one time. The lanes were all readjusted. Well, it fell behind, project fell behind. And so right now we're kind of waiting on the state, the TAP grant to see where we're at. We're thinking probably sometime early spring, we'll start having a little bit more of the information come in. We're still in the queue. We're still in the process. We've done everything we're supposed to do. Now it's been turned over to them. I don't know how much COVID had to do with it. I don't know. Toshi, you got you a guest? So I don't know how much COVID will, had to do with some of the slowdown, but hopefully by maybe within the next month or so, we'll hear a little bit more information and then progress forward when it comes to that grant.
Got a quick question.
Yep.
For the city-wise, since Toby has left, is there an engineer that I could get with, to continue to follow the FEMA project?
Yeah, absolutely.
All this time Toby was here, I was following as I was assigned by Mayor Weaver. And so every week or 2 weeks, we would get together for briefings and we'd go look at what was going on.
Yeah, overall, the Councilman Thompson, the project on the south end is near completion. Chance, I believe there's 38,000 left, maybe somewhere in there, 42. I may be off a little bit, but I feel pretty close to that number that maybe was still allocated or left. But I think overall, Councilman, the overall project has come to pretty much a completion. Now, if you do, like I said, Neil, we can give Neil a call, schedule a time with you if you want to do like an over the phone call like we're doing right now. More than happy to arrange that if you want to have a discussion with him or any council member that has a question regarding that issue. But I think overall it's getting close to completion. That may be why it's slowed down a little bit on that side.
Okay, so how are we doing as far as the automatic doors and stuff like that? The last time when Toby was here, that's what was coming up next.
Yeah, they've got all those and they've got all those installed. They're all manually working. You have to go down there in some of them. We had an issue with some of the equipment that came in that read the I can't think of the technical term, but it basically reads the dirt in the water. Those were located in each one of the basins, and we had to have the company come down and actually test those. There were some issues with the feeds. We've actually been in contact with the company back and forth to see if we can mitigate that issue. But I think what we've came to a resolution is if we have one of those working that kind of where the water passes through, as long as it reads it and we can actually take a manual handheld device down there and read the water, then we would meet the requirement that we need to do to meet that obligation of the water. And it's basically the sediment that's passing through the water that's traveling in the sinkhole. But the guys have the automation set up. They were installed. A lot of people were wondering what the lights were at each of those stations. They see the big light at each one of those. Those were put there as a requirement for if something was to happen and the guys need to go out and adjust or make an adjustment. And they couldn't do what you were talking about on the automated system. They have lighting there, and that's why the lights were put there. So it's all, as far as everything I've been told, it's all almost at a completion.
Okay.
So currently we cannot automatically adjust the flow of water from the house, right?
It's supposed to, yeah, they're installed.
They can adjust it from the house?
It's supposed to, yep. Anything else? And if it's not, Councilman, I'll check, but unless something's went out since the last time we did it, but yeah, it's supposed to be.
Tilt your screen down so I can see more than just you. There you go.
Now you're gonna get down here where you can't see me.
You are standing up, right?
I knew it. That's what I got to put up with. Yeah. So Chance, you want to move on? If there's anything else?
Well, the last comment I was actually going to make, and you kind of touched on it, was the Happy Valley FEMA grant. And, as you all probably know, and certainly some of the councils from prior councils, that's been in the budget now for, gosh, probably 5 years, those 5 basins. And actually, we have spent actually all the money on that not too long ago. And we're actually now in the closeout process with FEMA. So taking pictures of the sites has been turned in, and there's just some programmatic items to basically close that grant out, but we're actually in the final closeout phase of that grant, which has been around now for, gosh, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. That's all that I had, Mayor, kind of as a summary for today.
That's fine. Is there any questions from the council members for Mr. Fox? I mean, this is an overall, I know some of the new guys, we were waiting until everybody got sworn in so we can kind of give you all a full brief. We plan on still getting together now that Councilwoman Jackson has been sworn in. But there's any kind of questions, overall questions, maybe Mr. Fox, he can answer for you. Have any Chance, I'll excuse you. Can let Chief Cross, if he's in the room, let him know he's up. He's gonna be up here in a second.
All right. Thanks, Chance.
Yep, thanks, Chance.
Thank you all.
All right, next on the agenda, we have our police chief, Jeff Cross. Jeff is going to kind of give us, like Chance did, a kind of an overview of the department. A lot of things going on back there at the department. And so this is just going to kind of be a brief, and then we hope to have some of the other next work session. We'll bring in some of the other department heads, and we'll keep this, make sure everyone's up to date on where we're currently at. So Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all the new council members. We appreciate having you aboard and look forward to working with you all. Just so you know that my office is always open. If you got a question about something, feel free to give me a call. Chance really took most of what I had prepared to speak about in reference to the budget. He's covered our total budget generally on the average, and he talked about the body cams and the tasers and the reason we did this. You know, we were having a lot of the life of these tasers and body cams is generally about 5 years. We were 7 years into ours, and it was time to. There were a lot of them breaking down and going out of service. So we had to make a decision whether to continue trying to patch things or striking out in a new direction with all updates and get a fresh start with them. So we've gotten them started out in the field now, and they're going to be helpful to us. Those of y'all don't know, we've had body cams for since about 2013, I believe it was. Like I said, Chance covered a lot of that budget stuff. I'll tell you that our agency, last year, we just got the final report in, we had about 23,000 calls for service. So, and what that is the calls that come in, the traffic stops that we make. That's how many contacts that we've had during the year of 2020. That's no reflection on how many reports we take for any certain thing, but that's just the total calls for service that we have.
Is that Ratcliffe alone, or is that including Vine Grove's numbers?
No, that's our numbers. That's our numbers. And I think Vine Grove might have had, I don't know, 4,500 or something like, I'm not sure, 100% sure, but.
So while you're talking, Chief, some of the other council members, the new ones, might not understand that we dispatched for Vine Grove.
That's correct.
So you might want to explain a little bit of that, if you don't mind.
Sure. We have, in our strength table, we actually have 8 dispatchers, and that includes 1 dispatch supervisor. That supervisor also works taking their turn at dispatching. But we also dispatch for Vine Grove. So any calls that come in, they come in actually on a Vine Grove line, but our dispatchers answer that call. We dispatch those officers to their calls. If they make traffic stops and any interaction they have, they will contact our radio at dispatch there. So we also do that for Vine Grove. We work very well together as far as, you know, we back up Vine Grove if they need help. They back us up if we need help, and it's just always been a great team to be involved with Vine Grove.
But we're compensated from Vine Grove for dispatch.
Yes, we are compensated. I think they pay, and Chance can give you them figures. I think maybe one salary of 1 dispatcher to include benefits. So I think that may be correct. Chris might be able to answer that better than I can as far as the dollar figure goes, but that's how that works. As far as our organizational chart in reference to that, being as I talked about that, I'll go ahead and get into the rest of it. You know, we have the chief's position, and then we have an administrative assistant to the chief. Most of you all have met Angie, I think, and if not, stop by and meet her. She's a great lady. She, you know, she's really what makes things go over there. So we all have those people that make everything go. And she's a very important part of our organization, as everyone is. We have a slot for a public information officer, which we don't have right now due to manpower issues. So I handle most all of that that's coming in. I mean, Captain Wells shares that somewhat for the most part. And we branch off under that. And we go to captain of the patrol division, which is vacant at this time. Captain Skis retired in August. Again, we have not filled that at this time because we are short down the chain. And I hate to take away from the road or the detectives to fill that position and make them that much shorter. So Willie and I have been sharing those duties there. But we have 3 shifts in there, 3 platoons, and they each are on their full strength, which is 40. We would have 10 officers per shift to include a lieutenant and 2 sergeants on those shifts. Over to what we call a captain over special services, and that would be Captain Wells. And under him falls the responsibility of all the detectives. We currently have a detective supervisor, a lieutenant's position. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 working detectives under him when we're full strength. And one of those positions are assigned to the Greater Hardin County Narcotics Task Force. Our task force officer was injured back in June in a crash while on duty. He was hit head on, and he's been out with several surgeries since then. And he's doing well now. He's actually come back as of Monday to light duty just to do some paperwork and things. And he was eager to get back. So we welcome him back. The evidence property room falls under the special services commander, and that they have 2 down there, 2 evidence custodians. The technology coordinator falls under the special services commander. And so does all the dispatchers. And we have, like I said, we got 8 total dispatchers, and we have 2 records clerks, and they also fall under the command of the special services commander. Getting back, like I said, our strength table for officers is 40. We are currently, as of January 16th, which is the end of this week, basically, we have another officer that has resigned and he's moving on to a different job. We have, so that will put us at 33, so we'll be down 7. We have lost several officers over the last few years that have gone to other agencies and outside work to gain more pay. Our pay, and the mayor and I are putting something together right now for you all to take a look at and see if we can't get it back in the market to be more competitive. We are suffering quite a bit with all these losses, and we're in a hiring process right now that's been going on for almost a year. And the reason that we've had to drag it out that far is because when you give a test, and if you don't have very many that show up to take a test, and you start going through the process and you get to the oral boards and you don't have enough officers to put before the oral boards, it's not fair to someone else that comes in later and tests and go before a different oral board. So it's been a difficult year to try and get enough to get a field out. When you get to the backgrounds, to start doing backgrounds, because there's a process of elimination. And we found out through the years that when you begin the process of elimination, if you start with a low number, it's hard and difficult to fill a lot of positions, especially as many as we have. So hopefully that we can get you all involved over the next couple of weeks or however long it takes to try and see if we can't come up with a solution to address these pay issues, so we can be more competitive with these other agencies that are out there surrounding us. We're currently doing 2 dispatchers also, but we're about to fill those. I think I've got 2 identified that's been through the process that I'm getting ready to take to the mayor and make a recommendation for him. So hopefully we can get them 2 positions filled also quickly. And like I said, Chance, one other thing, some of the COVID money that we received a grant on earlier in the year, we have purchased new utility uniforms. They're a quick wash and quick, easy wash, quick wear. You can put them on. You don't have to put all your buttons on them. The names are already on them. The badges are already sewn on them. They can quickly put these on and take them home and wash them and clean them up in the wash machine very easily. So you're going to see a new look out there on the streets here in the next couple of weeks, and the guys are all excited about that. They look really good. And we like to maintain a professional image for our agency and serve our community with pride and professionalism. So we'll be putting that out real soon. Any questions that y'all might have?
I got a couple things. One, this kind of goes back to when I was asking about the budget, because I realize that that's an issue. And so, Mayor, that's one of the things I was trying to, I guess, get at. I didn't know what Chief Cross was going to bring up. So if I'm hearing him correctly, then we're not really going to wait until May or June. I mean, this sounds like it's something that needs to be addressed, or as Chief Cross says, maybe we're going to look at it sooner rather than later, as far as the pay and things that might help make joining the Ratcliffe Police Department a little bit more in line with some of the other communities. As I hear him say, he's talking to you about that, so we might hear from you on that subject a little bit sooner.
Yeah, no, anything that's a normal budgetary item, Councilwoman's what I was talking about earlier. Things like this that are kind of come up as a necessity throughout the budget cycle. Anything can pop up. It could be anything from a major repair for a roof blew off to an air unit to personnel issues. And so in this case, what the chief and I are talking about, the market, over the past year has been tough for everyone. It's not just police, fire, or anybody else. It's any department. But one of the major things we're seeing, along with what's going on with law enforcement, it's harder and harder to recruit to get officers in, and to get those good officers and quality officers that we need, and to keep up competitively in the market, and also maintain the good quality officers that we have within the department. We've got to be competitive.
Right.
But there's some of those areas we just can't match. And we've lost 2 good officers that we had to a different department that's outside of Louisville. Jeff, I think they went here probably in the 30s, but went up there making 56.
Yeah, I think they got about a $16,000 raise by making that switch. They were 4 or 5 year officers, good seasoned officers and really good officers. And we're seeing our officers. We do a great job here at RPD at training and preparing our officers to be police officers. And other agencies are thrilled, to be honest, to get our people when they come to them from here.
That's one of the things that Chief and I have been discussing. Councilman Yates and I believe Councilman Thompson probably was a part of the group initially back in 2015 that looked at those raises across the board between police and fire to become more competitive. The problem that we're having right now, and that's something that the chief and I, he's in my office quite a bit saying, hey, we got to do this. Let's say to be competitive, and I'm going to give you just an example, and this is what we're working through right now. Our city next door to us, and I can talk about Elizabethtown as well, but I know like Vine Groves, I think, Jeff, around 40,000 for a starting officer. Is that about right?
Yes. What they do is when they hire someone in as a new hire, they may make 36 in there at that time, not to the penny, but somewhere in that area. But when they send them to school after they graduate the academy and get through PTO training, which is within the first year, they jump up. When as soon as that officer hits the street, he's making 40,000 plus a year.
So
and we're seeing that a lot of the figures that I'm getting taken in right now with a lot of the agencies that I'm seeing. That's a pretty consistent number, anywhere between 37, 38 to 41, 42. And it's just extremely difficult to compete against that.
Now, the other thing that we have, and so with that 40,000, that officer with retirement, everything, all the benefits package and everything comes to us, costs the city or the taxpayer about 72,000. So it's not just the 40 that we look at, we have to look. So when we look at that number, we also have to consider those officers. We've got a 10-year officer that may have been here only making 42. So now that officer has to be adjusted because now an entry-level officer will come in making exactly what that 10-year officer is. And so the scope is not, and I know you all know this. I mean, you all understand how to budget and personnel cost, but those are the things that we're kind of working through. Those are the things that Councilman Thompson and Yates, of course, when they initially did that to give those raises. And so Chief and I are trying to figure out a way that impact is going to be fair across the board, but also fair that we can manage and maintain the level of what we currently have, as well as move the department forward and the necessary training we need, the necessary discussions we've had over the past year, meeting all those obligations, and then also running the city off a $12 million budget.
Right.
You all probably heard some of those numbers earlier that Chance kind of broke the budgets down. Almost 65% of the total operational budget goes to police and fire. And then we start breaking things down from there. We've got about a $350,000 rehab probably coming up this year for one of our fire trucks. The replacement cost of that truck's over $1 million. So we have to actually rehab it. It's about a 20-year cycle that's required for rehab to keep our ISO rating. And when we do that, all those things factor into this. So that's what I was telling you when we're working through this budget cycle and we're doing that, even though we have an additional 2.1 million, that 2.1 million gets eat up pretty fast when you start meeting I think, Jeff, your program between us and our program is like 750,000 for the software update needed to meet those obligations that we need between your department and our operations. And so, you start adding 350 with 750, and then things just keep tacking on top of that. So to your initial question, Councilwoman, at any point, and I think probably within the next month or so, I think the chief and he's working on a benefits package, comparing that to other communities around us, same size, close to operational size budget, to see what that looks like. Once he gets that done, I think we're going to go back and look to see how we got to become more competitive. We want the good officers. We want the training. We have a lot of money invested in these guys between cars, training, equipment. And they're out there, working hard every day. So I think, Chief, that's about overall what we've been looking to. Am I missing anything?
No, that's correct, Mayor.
That's
we
good.
just,
Thank you.
we've fallen behind, and we got to get back in this game and be able to compete. And, as I told the mayor, it's a tough field right now. We don't have as many, back when I applied 28 years ago, there was 200 or 300 people applying for 2 jobs. Now, we got 7 jobs and we've had 4 or 5 jobs over the last year, and we haven't got, 10, 12 applications in. So it's already tough because of the field, but when everybody's fighting for, the same few candidates, I'll be honest with you, they want to know how much they're going to make when they come to work for your agency.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I want to share with the council people, this is not my decision alone or the chief's decision. This is something we want to prepare for you all, be able to sit down and then have a good discussion and go over it to see how we can do that, and also meet the obligations of the entire city ourselves, the employee base. Every year we go through a process of cost of living raises. I think Chris and Kim, just correct me if I'm wrong, but initially when you all did the raises, of course I wasn't in office, so that's why I'm saying correct me if I'm wrong. You all never anticipated that the pension system would actually hit after those raises were given. And so on the backside of that, they had to work through those additional costs that were associated with those increases. And that's something, that they never anticipated. And so, I think we're all working to get through that process. This will not be one that we do on our own, but we want to be able to have the information prepared for you guys. That way, when we give it to you, we think it's fair and equitable, and we can afford to do what we're saying, and then let you guys decide a path forward.
I think one of the issues is, Mayor, we gave those raises, and as soon as we gave those raises, we were so far out of line. We gave them and got us up halfway where we needed to be, but then as soon as we gave them, the rest of the surrounding departments in our areas gave raises again, and that just put us farther behind. And then the next year, rather than giving the police department raises, we ended up only giving them 1% or something.
1%.
What was that, Chief? What,
1%.
Well, the officer, the sworn personnel that got the raise in 2015 never got any bump the next July.
so that just made us,
Those that didn't get any raise or
Right.
got the raise in the previous year didn't get any that year.
so that, that we kind of shot ourselves in the foot and took a couple steps back there. We gained a few steps when we gave them the raises. And then by not giving them the raises the next year or the cost of living, we took a few steps back. So it's
Yeah.
something definitely we need to look at so we can retain our quality officers and also get some new quality recruits.
Yeah, and one of the other things, and this is something that we're not going to solve right now, but the chief and I have discussed this. We have take-home cruisers. We've been discussing those and how the officers can utilize those and what other departments are doing. So, I mean, there's a lot on the table when it comes to this stuff. And it's something that we want to make sure we have prepared. And the other thing, sometimes it comes a factor. We give a cost of living. This is not just for police. This is for all city employees. You all do it in your private sector. For those of you that have employees, you have to deal with it. You give a cost of living, then health insurance goes up. And now that 1 or 2% that we're able to afford to give sometimes gets pulled back away even more. Just like in this year, prior to some of you all coming on this year, we made the decision to absorb the cost. We were able to do that this year for the employees that were directly affected. And so it all is retrospect. It's all taxpayer dollars. We just got to make sure that we're doing what we can do, provide the safety and welfare of the city, all by meeting the obligations of what we currently can afford to do. So.
Thank you. I have one more thing. And I'm sure Chief Cross probably knew way before now it was coming. I'm going to come and visit your office. I've already spoke with the mayor. I spoke with Ashley. It's not a secret that I'm a big animal advocate. So I have been looking into some of the animal ordinances. And I would like to come and meet with your office. And then obviously I spoke with Ashley, and that's one of the things I would like and hope that our council will work on this year is updating and working on some of our animal ordinances throughout the city. So
Absolutely. And like I said before, my door's always open, and I'm, welcome you all, and any issues that I can help resolve and we can work together on them. I'm always there for you. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Chief? I mean, you got off easy tonight, Jeffrey.
like I said, Chance pretty much took care of most of it before I sat down. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate you.
I just want to tell you, I think there's, it's a stressful job. Jeff and I usually tease each other quite often about how gray-headed we are and how white his mustache is getting. But ultimately, he is over here pestering me quite a bit to make sure that we're doing what we need for the department. We got a good department. We got good guys. We just got to ensure that they have what they need to operate and do what they need to do. And, I think we have a great, when you work with these guys and people and you see them on a daily basis, and I'm talking about all our staff, you start appreciating just the hard work they put in, and sometimes tasked multiply. Ashley's looking at me right now, smiling. I can see her through her mask right now, smiling at me. But we appreciate everybody in our departments, and we look forward to having the other department heads here. But rest assured that we are working with that, Jeff, and hopefully we'll get something presented to the council, hopefully by March.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All right. Well, with that, we're coming to the end of our meeting. Councilwoman Merle, just know that, and I know Mr. Pike's on here as well. Whenever you want to move forward and maybe what I did, and I'll be honest with you, I remember as a council person, there were some things I wanted to see happen through the some things that I wanted done. And I remember, we can reach out to the Kentucky League of Cities, some other organizations, see what other cities or stuff that has. And so Mr. Pike's also a great reference, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to talk to you about some of these ordinances or getting some of those updated. So at that point, Mr. Pike, I'm sure you're more than happy to help with that.
Yes, sir. Be happy to help.
So, All right.
Ashley was a big help today, and I appreciate it. We've started already with doing some of the research, so hopefully we can move this forward pretty quickly.
All right.
So thank you.
All right, council, at this time, we've come to the end of our work session.
One thing, JJ, I've seen a comment on Facebook concerning the street lights on 31W.
Yeah.
I know you addressed it not too long ago, but could you address that one more time so
Yeah,
everybody knows where we're at?
I hadn't looked. So if you're talking about the decorative street lights down Dixie, I know. So we've been in a, this is not something that just happened overnight. We've been in a little bit of a tussle with our vendor for that was Ratcliffe Electric. Those all were bought. Those are all down Dixie, Wilson, and out in front of City Hall. They were all bought by by Ratcliffe Electric as our vendor. They purchased them. So over the past several months now, we have been arguing with the company that owns those lights to warranty them to be repaired. What they at first said, they didn't see anything wrong with the lights. They've tested them, they're working. And what was happening was the lights would all of a sudden just be dim or non-existent. We've taken off several. If you'll drive down Dixie, you'll see several of the heads off the top of the pole there removed, and we actually sent to the company to be tested. Ratcliffe Electric tested them in-house and had a problem. We sent them back just before Christmas. I was made aware from Ratcliffe Electric because we did threaten to possibly sue the company to replace the heads that were bad. So just before Christmas, I was told by Ratcliffe Electric that the vendor has agreed to send new transformers which go inside. What they believe may be happening, maybe is the key word here, they're not admitting, is that the housing that houses the LED light is getting hot and it's sending it into a default mode that's dimming the light down. They're going to be sending us new fixture heads to put on, but it's up to our people, unless we hire an electrician, but our people to come in and actually switch those out. So they're going to start sending those. I don't know when they're initially going to come in, but they say that will guarantee the problem. We have several out there that have either been hit or knocked over by cars. We have insurance claims on. We're actually looking at purchasing, of course, different lights. We're not going to go back to the same system. And so there'll be a little transition there. But trust me, I drive it. I get teed off every time I look at it. It looks awful. I was the one who put those on. I was the one who initially started that. So I totally get the frustration when I see it. I don't know who messaged you, Chris, but that hopefully they're still watching, but that's the answer. And so hopefully I'd say within the next few weeks that those parts should be coming in, and then our guys at Public Works will be transferring those out.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, now I'm going to learn this new order here. I'm trying to learn this order. Pam, you're first, right? I think you're the first chair now.
Emma?
I think so. So I'm going to let you start off. You got anything to add?
Well, I don't want to steal Toshi's thunder, but I am going to mention the fact that we have Ratcliffe Small Business Alliance has got a couple of upcoming ribbon cuttings. So I know that we are now getting the invites to go on behalf of the city. So this Friday is Glass Doctor of Elizabethtown, Friday at noon at 1612 North Dixie Boulevard. And then we have another one on the 22nd, which is U-Haul at noon.
All right. Oh, the U-Haul, is the U-Haul this weekend or next weekend?
That's the 22nd.
Following weekend. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Who's next, actually? It's going to be Miss Jackson. All right. All right. Miss Jackson, you're on mute. So if you got anything you'd like to add, any community stuff or anything you want to comments?
I don't have anything, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, welcome to our Zoom meeting. Welcome to our team. So congratulations. It was an honor to swear you in today, Miss Jackson. Then it's going to be Toshi. I think you're a councilwoman. You're next.
Thank you. As Councilwoman DeRoche was saying, the Ratcliffe Small Business Alliance, we held the first annual ribbon cutting last Friday, which was Pappy's Tacos and More. And for those of you who've been in the area a long time, the old Dog and Suds which I learned something recently that Chris Yates, I think he mentioned at the ribbon cutting that his family had a part to play, or maybe was the original builders of that. So ever since we had that ribbon cutting last Friday, I've wanted a root beer and a chili dog, but that hadn't happened. So that was last Friday. It's exciting. As a very young couple in their early 20s that invested into Ratcliffe, their new business. They also have a food truck. And Pam mentioned the ribbon cutting for the Glass Doctor. They just opened their business January 4th. And so they've already ready to open their doors in Ratcliffe, and they're going to be specializing in glass repairs, replacements, shower enclosures, mirrors, and more. So we really want to encourage the community to come out too. They are safe as far as with the COVID, as the ribbon cuttings, wear your mask, come out, support these businesses. The U-Haul right next there to City Hall is the 22nd at noon. They also have storage units, and they're offering a 30-day free, if you're transferring here and you're in the military and you're transferring to the Fort Knox area, they're giving a 3-day free storage as you transition. So we're excited. We're excited about the growth, 3 ribbon cuttings in January. That's saying we believe that, things are going to get opened back up. Things are going to be alive and well. And we want everybody to support and come out and help show their support to the people that are investing in our city. And if you want to stay on top of the events and what is happening, you can go to the RatcliffeSBA.com. That's RatcliffeSBA.com. That's where you can see the events and the schedules and what's coming in the future as far as the ribbon cuttings and what's going on in the small business world of Ratcliffe. So thank you.
Miss Councilwoman Owens.
Good evening, everyone. Nothing for the group.
All right. Councilman Thompson.
I'd like to say welcome to the new councilwoman. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy, especially because of COVID, safe and happy winter.
Councilman Yates.
I'd just like to welcome Councilwoman Jackson to the team. Look forward to working with you, and hopefully before long we can all get in the council chambers and get to see our new council chambers. Actually, look forward to sitting behind that desk with everyone before long.
All right. Well, I just want to add, this is the first time in 10 years that we will not be having the mayor's breakfast. We started that back in 2011, and it's really carried on very well. I believe everyone that's pictured here has helped in some form or fashion and been a part of those yearly traditions. Unfortunately, I think no one has to explain the circumstances we're in. Hopefully it's more of a postpone than a cancellation. So we look, hopefully that will move forward. We have a council meeting scheduled for next Tuesday at 6:30. That will be another Zoom meeting. Again, if those watching, or if the council members have anybody that want to make a public comment or would like something read, we try to keep it under 2 to 3 minutes. And if we can help, answer that question or do something that needs to be done, we will accommodate that. We're hoping maybe for the month of February, we'll be able to all get together and have a in-person meeting. Ashley, I don't know if there's anything else we have.
I sent them an email on training for the certified city of ethics. So if they could just let me know.
You have that bag right there. Also, the KLC bag. Also, Ashley said that you all should have an email sent to you regarding the KLC certified training that we were going to be should be doing. So you need them to just respond to that email. And then I don't know, and I hadn't asked you all this. Has everybody been able to receive their first KLC training video for new council members coming in? Has everybody been able to do that? I know Councilwoman Jackson, I know we need to get you on that. Councilwoman Owen.
I have the class. I've already taken the orientation and signed up for the 3-day or another big class that they're doing. I signed up for that January 19th to the 21st.
Okay. All right. Well, and then also I just want to show you this, and next time we're all together, I'll make sure I try to give you one, but we have you all little, well, I say little, it's a lapel pin. It says the Commonwealth of Kentucky on it, and then it says council. So we want to make sure I'm able to pass those out to you all next time now that you are official. So I've had them on my desk, just haven't been able to give them to you yet. So I think with that, I don't have anything else. All right, I think we're good. We'll send the agendas out, and the 3 council members, I'll try to get something arranged for you so all of us can get together. We'll pick a day we all can be together, and we'll try to go over the projects, Mill Pond, things that are happening there, update you all on what's going on with Red Mar, so on. And so I look forward to this year. I think we'll have a good year, and I look forward to it. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So
I don't think
moved.
we need a motion.
I'm just doing it as formality. I knew you was gonna say it. Motion second, any
So
discussion?
moved. Second, all in favor. Let's go.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
All
Thank
right,
you.
See you, Mayor.
Thank
See you,
you.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Night.